Hey guys, it's Jared. So in a few days, November is going to start. And November is National Novel Writing Month, or NaNoWriMo. It's when a whole bunch of authors around the world sort of commit and band together to write a 50,000 word novel, or 50,000 words of a novel. I've done this before. I wrote my story Sons of Earth during my first NaNoWriMo, but I haven't done it for a couple of years, so I'm really excited to do it again. I thought this would be a good time to talk about and have a few quick tutorials on how to plan a novel. What I see a lot of younger or unexperienced writers do is to just sort of launch right into writing a story because they have an idea, they flip open a notebook, open up a Word doc, and they start writing. Only a few scenes in to kind of go, oh, I didn't really think this through, I don't really know where I'm going, and the story never gets finished. And that's a shame. So what I've learned to do and what I'm going to share with you is to plan, to plot a story, to create a roadmap that says, here's where I'm going to start, here's a few waypoints along the way, here's where I want to end up. It's not a binding contract, for those of you who think a plan is going to stifle your creativity, that's not my experience at all. My experience is that it actually sets me free to be creative because I've done that hard work up front. It does take a bit of delayed gratification to work instead of just start writing, because writing gives you a bit of a rush. Planning, meh, not so much, but it's worth the effort. What I'm going to be using for these lessons is what I learned from a online course from Well Storied called Mapping Powerful Plot Arcs. My friend Aaliyah sent it to me. It was very helpful. Thanks, Aaliyah. I'm going to start with lesson 1 today that sort of lays the groundwork for a good plot, and I think it's going to be quite helpful. So let's give it a look. So the first question is, what story do I want to plot? And you'll see here I've written the yet untitled werewolf vampire Dampier novel set in Winnipeg. Winnipeg's my sort of hometown, I guess. I lived there for a couple years, went to school there for a couple years. You can be a little more specific than that. You can just kind of say, in a couple sentences, here's the story I want to write. Who are the protagonists? I have the Anglican priest, Amina Bunker, the Dampier/vampire hunter, Josiah Angle, Dampier/vampire hunter, Kate Andrenescu, and antagonist, vampire Rodrigo/Bastian. We're going to see a few times here where I'm not quite sure what I'm going to call a person. So, or even what gender they're going to be in. So you'll see that I'm sort of, yeah, anyways. So what does the protagonist want, and what is their biggest struggle? This has a really important foundational question to your story. If you don't know this question, it's going to be very hard to have a story that makes sense, because you're never quite sure what that person wants, okay? So you're going to have to decide, what does this protagonist want out of life, or in this sort of the time period of the story, and what is their biggest struggle? For the priest, Amina, she wants to feel like she's actually making a difference in her town, and she wants to feel like she's in the right place, and she's struggling because she feels like nothing she does makes a difference. Pretty relatable. For Josiah, he wants to be free to live a fulfilling life. He feels trapped. It could be something a lot simpler than that. You know, in a short story, it's going to be something very small. In a long story, it's going to be something bigger. I've included Rodrigo, who is my villain here. One thing I'm kind of very interested in is having a multi-dimensional villain. I want my villain to be a good villain who you're kind of torn whether you want to support them or if they're evil. I think personally that is the best way to make a villain. So in order to do that, I'm putting just as much into his wants and his desires as I am into the antagonists. Into the protagonist, sorry. You might not want to do that. That depends what your goals are. I'm doing that because I think that's going to give him the most relatability, the most dimension and character as a person. Alright, and then the last one. What would it take to achieve this goal or overcome this struggle? What would it take for this person to get what they want or to get past what they're struggling with? What would it take for Amina to overcome this feeling that what she's doing isn't making a difference, that she's not being validated for the work that she's doing? And here I've just decided to do something like, ideally it'd be this. It might not be that in the rest of the plot. So for Amina, ideally she overcomes this by discovering that she has the ability to fight vampires and becoming part of the Winnipeg underworld. But she'd also like to realize that as a priest, she has a unique gift to cancel people and give spiritual help. And you'll see also I've given Rodrigo, and ideally Rodrigo would grow his coven and wipe out the Dampiers that turned Marta against him and spoiled his happiness. Oh, did we ever touch on who Marta is? Oh yeah, there he is. She is. Alright, and so that's pretty simple. That's a pretty easy place to start, kind of, but it is a lot of work. The thing about plotting is, it is just a fair bit of work, but it's going to be worthwhile because during NaNoWriMo, when you're kind of crunched on time, I work full time, you want to just write. You don't want to have to worry about where you're going. Alright, that was lesson 1. Hope it helped. Happy plotting, happy planning, and happy NaNoWriMo.